In today's video, I'll be counting down the top 10 most spookiest themed roller coasters. Hello coaster lovers. So this is the last video of October, and that means it's almost Halloween. So to honor the spookiest holiday, I'm going to be sharing some roller coasters with spooky themes. And before we start, I have two things to mention. One, this is all my opinion. So if you get mad at something, I apologize. And two, we have an honorable mention, but I can see this or the last place coaster switching spots, but I settled with Poltergeist being the honorable mention. This is an outdoor premiere ride spaghetti bowl, and this coaster is themed to a malevolent mansion that has spirits. So poltergeists are basically ghosts, and ghosts are spooky. So the theme works, because before the major refurb in 2021, the station looked like this, yeah. But anyway, the refurb did wonders for this ride, and the coaster is still kicking butt 25 years later. So cracking the top 10, we have Dark Coaster at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. The reason why I put this over Poltergeist is because it has some theming throughout the layout. It does look like props from Party City, but there's one thing that's really cool. At the end, there is this projection of one of the characters from the theme just opening its mouth like your food or something. It's really creative. But for the coaster itself, it looks tame and uneventful. At number 9, I have personally ridden this, but I'm not a huge fan of this coaster. But the theme is spooky, and it's with Flight of Fear. This is the second Premier Ride Spaghetti Bowl coaster that has made the list, and the one at King's Dominion can share the placement with King's Island. And I love the queue for this coaster. It has this UFO in the middle, and it has some props all around. And at the station, there are these creatures locked up. I don't know what they are, but they look very cool. But the launch sounds more spooky at King's Dominion, because there's this random sound it makes before hitting the infamous F minor. For the coaster itself, it's not that good. I might make a review for this coaster soon, but that's not an indicator for the future. And speaking of coasters I've ridden, the number 8 spot is given to Mystery Mine. And same thing as Flight of Fear, I'm not a big fan of this coaster. But if you want to hear my full in-depth thoughts about this coaster, make sure to check out my review in the card above. And this is not the last coaster that I have ridden. But anyway, the ride is themed to a haunted 19th century mine shaft, and the dark ride portion is pretty cool. I like the practical sets and drawings all around you. And when you're climbing up your second lift hill, you see a screen of a mine shaft falling. But like I said earlier, check out my review if you want to hear more. I just love the theme, but the coaster itself did not execute that well. And speaking of great coasters, the number 7 coaster is my top bucket list coaster built by Zierer, and it's with Verbolten. This coaster looks like a ton of fun, but the coaster is themed to a German Autobahn that got struck by a bull at the last minute and took a turn into the Black Forest, and that is why there is this indoor part with a drop track. I also love how they named this coaster. Forbidden in German is Verboten, and they put the word bolt to make it Verbolten. It's really clever, and this looks like one of the best family coasters of all time. At number 6, I highly advise skipping this portion of the video if you're trying to not be spoiled about this coaster I'll bring up next, and that is with Carnan at Hansa Park. This gigantic Gerstlauer coaster is situated around this castle, because this is a replica of a real castle in Sweden. Also in the backstory, so basically young King Eric VI was so cruel to his kingdom that his people tried to rise above him. Then Eric would build a bigger castle that no one would conquer, and that's what Hansa Park replicated, and it was casted by a spell and it would come at a high price. And he soon died in the castle, and his soul has been there ever since. And inside it features this insane reverse lift hill thing. It's basically a drop tower but you're on your back. Same thing as Verbolten. This is easily my top bucket list coaster built by Gerstlauer, and this thing looks insane. A little rough, but hands down the best Gerstlauer yet. Now we are halfway through the list, and we're gonna kick it off with one of my favorite coasters of all time, Mystic Timbers. This GCI is just relentless from start to finish, but this coaster is themed to the Miami River Lumber Company. They were gathering wood to use for the train, and one piece of it fell out, which was haunted. Then it overgrown the park, and the only way to safety is the shed, but the people advised not to enter. But you do. Even though the shed was disappointing to me, even hearing all this criticism, I still think it's a phenomenal ride, and if you want to hear more, check out my review. For the next few coasters, these are all at UK parks. We're starting off at Alton Towers for Nemesis Reborn. This was a redo for the original Nemesis that opened in 1994, and Nemesis Reborn is themed to an excavation site that has been standing dormant for a while, and there is this alien creature thing, which actually looks really cool, and the coaster is supposed to keep the alien hostage. I also love that throughout Forbidden Valley, there are these protesters protesting about the creature and site. It is so creative. So bravo Alton Towers, and this is probably one of the best inverts. It's because it really uses the terrain to its advantage. You are actually right next door to the ground. Now let's go to Thorpe Park for the next coaster. It's with Saw the Ride. If you like horror movies, this coaster is for you, because in the beginning, it has a great dark ride portion, but it's really dark in there, so I'm not going to show it. But there is this Heartline roll with the dead body on the floor. That is just so cool. But the same thing as Mystery Mine, this thing has not executed the best. Definitely Rally, and I also love on how Hyperion dwarfs this coaster. It looks looks like a kiddie coaster next to Hyperia, but this coaster looks like a good Eurofighter past the roughness. Now we're going back to Alton Towers for their intimate family coaster, 13. I could have swapped this and Saw, but this is one of the most underrated themed coasters in my opinion. It's themed to a dark and woody forest, and it's apparently themed to the bad luck concept. And I also love how in the drop track portion, it looks so spooky, along with this creepy thing while you're going backwards. It looks scary but cool. And fun fact, the theme was designed by Candy Holland, and the coaster itself looks like a great family coaster. The drop though is heavily trimmed, so if that didn't exist, that would be great. Now taking the number 1 spot is a coaster that truly deserves it. It is with Skyscream at Holiday Park. This is easily the spookiest themed coaster I have ever seen. It's because in the queue, it is literally a haunted house, like those mazes you see at Halloween events at the parks. And I've heard there used to be scare actors in there, but if you know more about the queue than I do, leave a comment. Then you have a Skyrocket too. These do have lap bars, which is a plus, but the queue looks incredible. It's just so spooky, way more creepy than the other coasters on this list. So I want to hear from you guys, what do you think is the creepiest themed roller coaster you have seen, whether in person or on a video? And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you like my content, consider subscribing. There will be another video coming out in the next 5 days, so make sure to keep that adrenaline pumping and have a happy Halloween.